Okay, welcome everybody. This is Keith Circle and Mark's here tonight as well, and we have Shannon here. We're supposed to have Amy showing up too, but she's a little late or she's not showing up. So we'll see what happens with that. And so on this circle, it's dealer's choice. Anything goes. And so it just kind of depends on where I'm at, where everybody else is at that's here. If they have questions, they have things they want to talk about. If I feel inspired to do a certain type of circle, whether it be Holy Fire Reiki experience or Tarot circle. I space when I just wow. I literally thought I was saying something else when I said that. Well, yeah, next week is the Tarot Circle, but sometimes we do bring the tarot cards into this circle too. So this is my circle, Keith's circle. So Mark needs to learn to step back a little bit.
Sometimes you get a little lost. I was just reminding you.
But okay, we won't go there. Otherwise, I'll have to edit a lot of stuff. And before we started, I have a bunch of wigs that came in for our mannequins for our store. And I said to Mark, should we be wearing the wigs for tonight? Which would have been kind of funny.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know if Shannon, can you hear the dog making a little bit of crying noises?
Oh.
Nothing. No, poor thing.
Should I go put her?
Well, do you think if we just let her in here, she'd get into too much problems? Probably.
I can.
So our puppy Sadie turns 1 this week, I believe it is. And which I better figure out because we need to get a dog
Friday.
for Friday. But today she had her spay done, so that was kind of a sad day for us, and she's a little sad. So we're gonna sort of let her in a little bit,
Zoned out still.
and see how she is. But she definitely is zoned out. She's on medication. So I have a few thoughts of where I'd like to go, but before I do that, I want to see what Shannon has for thoughts, if she has any questions, or what. So Shannon, talk to us.
Yeah. I don't really. Well, we could talk about like the whole. I didn't even know about it. The Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis thing with the solar flare. Maybe how that. Anything you want to talk about that? If there's anything like how it energetically relates.
Yeah, we're in a period of massive solar flares, and it's ongoing, and that is bringing more light onto the planet from the sun, and so it does have effects on the world. It has effects on people. It has effects on satellites and things of that nature. For people that are more sensitive, they're going to feel more of that light and then process that light, or have to learn to have abilities of response to higher degrees of energy, because the light is bringing in higher frequencies. And for those people that even work with color therapy, the light is bringing in different frequencies of light, different colors, so to speak, and people will be responding or reacting to that as well. So it is interesting that all along we are in a space of time where we are having more light on the planet than is normal, but it's interesting that we're literally seeing it in the sky as well, which is pretty cool, I think, to see it that way. So for me, I've been having some interesting experiences where I had the other night, I had dreams of seeing things with my eyes, and I actually ended up having an eye issue the other day. So I'm having that looked at and whatnot. So I'm dealing with sight things as well as visions. And last night I didn't sleep at all, not 1 second of sleep. And for at least 3 hours, I actually was having visions and hearing spirit. I literally was channeling for 3 hours with spirit and had quite an interesting conversation back and forth that dealt with seeing into my past lives or seeing into lives in the past that I see through, however we want to look at that. It also showed me how to see through my spirit to my soul in different ways. It showed me so much stuff that I really can't go into. One, because it's too much, and as well that it's too personal to my own being. But I will maybe approach a couple things in that I thought was interesting. Um, One of them was there was at one point that I was seeing way into cosmic dimensional space, if you will, and was seeing different things, light and whatnot. And at one point, with the light that I attributed to, well, what we call God and God's light, sort of that space way into that soul of the all, if you will. And as I was seeing that and working on processing what I was seeing and trying to make sense of it, and hearing spirit help me make sense of it, but holding space for me to make sense of it, holding space for me to find my way to communicate with spirit, and even having spirit, how do I say this? Hold space for what I needed versus what spirit wanted me to have in that way, which there's a very fine discernment in that. And part of that had to do, and here I'm going to say more than I planned on, part of that had to do with the different levels of spirit that I was seeing through, and me discerning the light and less than light in those levels, and including some of those levels of spirit acknowledging the less than light within the level of spirit that was communicating with me, in that it knowing that I was able to see more, and so that was interesting in that space. But back to where I was attempting to go, I went into a space where I saw a little bit of a different color within the white light of all of that energy. And my first thought was, okay, what is this? It's not white, so to speak. And we often will judge light as being better or worse depending on brightness of the white, if you will. But within higher realms of spirit, there's ultraviolet colors and such too. So as I was seeing the different shade and trying to make sense of what I was seeing, it actually ended up having a look of what I would call embryo in a way, but not formed in the nature that you could actually see a shape of embryo. It was more of a color. And then I heard crying, and I thought, okay, fear started registering because of the color I was seeing, and as well the crying. But as I settled into what I was experiencing, I realized the crying wasn't a painful crying or a scary crying, so to speak. It didn't feel less than light. It didn't feel of a darkness, if you will. And I'm having difficulty finding the right words because I don't want to place judgments with my words. The other thing I realized as I was registering with that I was seeing little legs. And I was seeing the little legs when I was hearing, and when I was seeing the color, but I was focusing on different components of what I was seeing and processing to make sense of it. And I realized what I was hearing was little babies crying. It was little babies being born. And I was seeing the legs, but I wasn't seeing the rest of the baby. And it was interesting, the placement that the legs were closer to the color of, for lack of better words, the godhood of the embryo nature of what I was seeing. And what I heard from spirit was that the babies are the closest to God's love. And I literally was like, whoa, as I went through that layer of what I was seeing and registering, um, where I was actually seeing um, within all of that higher dimensional aspect of literally seeing into an energetic space of how babies are coming into this realm of being born. And from that space, it actually took me into my space in this life of before I was born. And I got more clarification on my memories of being in the womb, as well as my memories of the space before I entered the womb. So that whole scenario was set up in a way, as I saw through, to teach me much more. And so the whole 3 hours was all these different levels of seeing into things and then getting wider perspectives and then ending up in another space and being like, okay, what is this? Making sense of all of that. And then seeing how it widened out and it connected to the other thing that I was seeing. And then it brought me to another level. And it was sort of like a jigsaw puzzle being built within my mind and within my soul, within the whole space of spiritual consciousness that I was opening to, and how the realms of spirit were teaching and showing me that, but also opening to what I already had known and seen. And part of what that means to me is I often say that I am seeing from my soul normally, or oftentimes. And when I was born, I was seeing from my soul versus from my body. And it's a different perspective. Many people are attempting to see in their body from the third dimension into the higher dimensions. And for me, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the reason that I at times have such epic visions ever since I was a little child is because I am seeing from my soul at times through dimensions into the third dimension. And then as I've grown, I'm also seeing at times from the third dimension upwards. But when I let go of my ego, then I'm able to see from my soul downwards into the dimensions versus trying to use my head to think about it and make sense of things. When I think, and I could be wrong, but I think we make sense from the higher dimensions down into this dimension versus trying to make sense from here upwards. Because when we try to make sense from here upwards, we're really working with third dimensional constructs. And if we're trying to make sense of things that are multidimensional, we need more than just the mind constructs of the third dimension and the ego states we're working with. We have to really transcend all of those. And I think the best way to transcend them is to come from where we actually are. And that, I think, is from our souls down through spaces of time into this space. So sometimes I say, people will say that we need to go within, but I say, well, wait a minute, we're already there to begin with. So if we awaken from within, then we can learn to settle and to align and sort out and come forward from within outwards and really get to where we're actually attempting to be. I mean, I believe we're all here working on learning how to embody into our physicality that we're incarnating here. So why are so many of us going back inside of ourselves, trying to get there, when we're already there, but because of fear, we try to run away backwards? And I'm not saying that we need to forget the past or such. I think that we need to be present from where we actually are in our soul, coming forward here. And that's when I think we can be more authentic than deciding, okay, I need to create a path, or I need to create an identity, or all these other constructs, when we already have a path, we already have an identity of our being. We don't need to, I think, create all these other constructs that we then dress up in. I mean, we can dress up in them for fun at times, but if we're really trying to be aligned from our soul, and a little bit of dry humor, if we're trying to be aligned from our souls and come forward and go where we're getting to, be on our path, this is our path. So anyone want to have thoughts to any of that? Some people would call word salad. I feel like I should have a music track playing in the background, and maybe I should do that for some of these circles, because normally if I put this online, I probably will put a music track
I
behind
just
it.
heard like Jeopardy. And when you asked the question, I heard like the Jeopardy music. I'm like, oh.
The Jeopardy music of
Yeah.
the TV show,
Yeah.
the game show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because you asked this for. I'm like thinking, okay, now we like.
I'll,
the question.
I'll see if I can find that theme song. If I can get royalty free, or
Oh,
if it's in
yeah.
one of my things that I have access to.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's hard to. I feel like since I was a kid anyway, and I mean, it's always been the perspective that's always been put out there is like you're here trying to get there. So it's definitely like when you're like, I'm in a space where I'm trying to figure out my beliefs through my experiences of this everything. But like, so yeah, like, but that makes more sense to me because like I feel like things come through from there to here, like when you feel like you're receiving something like your own consciousness just like guiding you, it feels like it's coming from there to here. Like that makes sense to me in that respect of like in the most smallest way, like if you're not used to like thinking of it in that way. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't even know how to describe this, but yeah, so I feel like that's like the one way that like really can help you, or help me anyway, to like really be like, okay, yeah, definitely they're coming here. But when I think of it like that, it's like, wow, because I feel like it's always been like, regardless what you believe, where you're going or whatever, it's always felt like a climb, like you're trying to like get there to that, to whatever that is. But when I think of it reoriented, it's definitely much easier feeling and everything when it's from there to here, when you actually open up and like recognize and listen to it, I guess, and know that's what you're
and I think there's many things that play into this. I know when I was younger, the thing that people would often talk about within the alternative communities and such is that the New Age movement is that it's mind, body, spirit. Like you're supposed to sort out your mind in your body, and then you can be spiritually aligned, where I think that's backwards. That never made sense to me growing up. And then one day I thought, well, it's actually spirit, mind, body, or even soul, spirit, mind, body. That the more your spirit is aligned, the more that your mind and your body can be aligned. It's not that I'm going to use my mind and control my mind and make my body better and then make my spirit better. Dis-ease comes through the spirit realm into our bodies. So the more discord that we hold on to and we allow to settle into the gravity of our bodies, that's when we get disease. It's not the other way around. I mean, yes, we can create some of it the other way around, but it's more so coming from how we're emanating into the space and what energies that we're transcending or dealing with from past life energies that's coming into the space, how we interact with the spirit realm, even whether we are disempowered from the realm of spirit or whether we are empowered from it, whether we're subjugated by it or enlightened by it. And so there, some of that is people that have wanted to, do what's right to help others and such, but didn't necessarily know the clear words for it, the clear direction, and have unconsciously led people astray or into discorded space. And then there are, some religions that have led people astray for different purposes, sometimes unconsciously, and sometimes because they wanted control over the people. And so they thought that if they controlled the people, then they would have control of the people and the people would have control. So it's not necessarily all those people that took their version of religion and ran with it isn't necessarily all, how do I want to say it, all people that intentionally wanted to control people for their own purposes. Some people genuinely thought they were helping bring people to, quote, what they believed to be God. And some, weren't really believing in, quote, a God. They were believing in their own control that way. So there's many different layers of what has gone on throughout the centuries. And we're in a mixture, a culture of all of that. And we really need to have discernment to learn how to have discernment so that we can see what makes sense, what we should really listen to, and how we make sense ourselves, so that we can be able to, come forward clearly. I'm sort of playing with the computer as I'm doing this. So, Mark, can I ask, maybe you don't know this, the computer's making noises. If I turn off the volume, I won't be able to hear Shannon, though, right?
Correct.
And that'll
The
stop.
volume's what we're doing. It's not going to stop that digging.
Yeah, so I have to figure out
It's
how to
easier.
stop the digging from the computer.
I think it's because you have your email background.
Oh, okay,
And
maybe
your-
that's what it is.
When you get a notification.
So, where's that?
What's that on the side over there?
Oh, it's
Um,
okay. This is what happens when you have 3 computer screens up. So we're gonna quit that. Hopefully that will stop that noise. We have computer screen here, computer screen here. We have a computer over here, and then we have a camera screen showing up here of what we're doing. We have one over here. We have a little one over there. We have 3 of them over here. And we've got a little puppy down here trying to say hello too. I'd pull her up so that you could see her, but since she has her incision from her little operation today, I think we got to be careful with that. But, so yeah, I think it's a mix of all of those thought constructs and cultures, and especially in the country that we live in, the 3 of us, the United States, we have a certain culture that we're growing up in that's vastly different than other countries in the cultures. And I don't say it's vastly different in the nature of saying that it's better than, because quite frankly, in the culture of the United States, many people are hypnotized in ways that people in other countries are not. Yes, there are some countries that the people are hypnotized within straight out cults of dictators and things like that. But being that in the United States there are more freedoms and more illusions of freedoms as well, I think discernment is really something that needs to be learned to have an ability of response for, because there's so much coming at people that a lot of people don't even realize, and they're not able to discern the truth through all of that. So that's really important to learn how to do that. So any thoughts or questions on any of that?
Okay, so and I mean, I've been working on this myself, but what do you have? Well, I don't know. What is your process of learning how to discern things? Just like getting in a situation, having it go down the hole because it wasn't what you thought, and then learning from that for next time? Or is there a less messy way?
Well, so for me, my discernment comes through from my past lives and from seeing from my soul. The times that I have issues with discernment is when I'm trying to discern from my states of ego as Keith, or from third dimensional constructs. If I try to discern with my head, I might get into more issues than if I learn to just allow and discern from my soul, if that makes sense. And so for me, when I'm really discerning things, it just naturally comes at me. And that's a side product, if you will, of certain past lives that I see through. That can get a little crazy for me because I can discern through so many different layers and levels of things all at once. so to speak, because it's dimensional, discerning through different types of dimensions of things and seeing around things. Even just talking to people at times, I can sometimes see people's states of ego. And so in communicating with them, I'm discerning through the states of ego that I'm seeing and feeling. So we could have, 3 people in a room and they're all saying the same thing, but because everyone has their own voice, their own perspectives, I'm seeing something different with each person. And even sometimes I can be in a room of people and nobody's speaking, yet some of those people are actually talking to me. I'm seeing and hearing their spirit speak to me and say things. Sometimes it's different parts of their ego, and sometimes it's their main ego as well. When I first met Mark, he spoke to me telepathically constantly. And it was very strange because I had a hard time realizing that he didn't realize he was doing it. And it was just literally coming out, yet it wasn't coming out of his lips and his mouth. And I think if I would pinpoint something he said, he'd know, but I don't think he would have realized that he was actually telling me. And so you answer that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, how back are you? How far? Like
When we first met,
very first.
the first 3 days that we met. Because we met at a retreat, and he sat a few people away from me, and he kept talking to me, even though his mouth wasn't moving, and nobody else was
it wasn't
hearing
conscious,
him.
but yeah.
He subconsciously was telepathically speaking, full sentences and everything. It was very strange. I mean, it's not the first time I've had that happen, but it was strange on how much was coming out and how little he realized was actually coming out.
Had you guys already like introduced yourselves at least?
We
Or, like, you
did.
hadn't
Even the
actually-
first moment I saw him, I knew that that there was something going on there, with him in that nature, and that I needed to pay attention. It's sort of like sometimes I will hear a person's name in the morning or sometime during the day. Sometimes their full name, first, last, and I don't know who the person is. And then sometime during the day, I meet that person, and I know when that happens, I'm supposed to pay more attention to that person, because to not be distracted by other things, because something's going on there, and spirit or myself is seeing or knowing something, and I need to pay attention for that. But at the same time, I've had spirit come forward and tell me names of people and tell me that I need to be careful of them and stay away from them, which is interesting, especially when you meet a couple people and you have spirit come forward right away and sort of put a hand up and say, do not encounter this person. And then you're in a mix of people and you have to figure out, okay, how do I step away from this person without anybody realizing I'm stepping away from this? It's sort of like ghosting people right in front of them, so that I don't get mixed or caught up into something that spirit's already showing me that I need to stay away from. So that comes from, operating more from a higher realm of spirit. And some people will hear that and think that's judgment, think that that's ego on my part of saying, oh, I'm in a higher realm of spirit, type thing. And that doesn't mean that. And there are many different dimensions, and all of us can operate and perceive from different dimensions. It doesn't make one better than another. It might make one more conscious than another person, but that doesn't necessarily mean better in that nature of how people's egos often go, of looking at things. And as well, I think we're all coming from our souls into this dimension. So I think we're all actually operating from a higher dimension. It's just most people, or a lot of people, or some people are operating their main focus in other dimensions versus the dimension they're actually coming forward through. And some of that is because the families or cultures or societies or schooling that they've had and how they've been entrained and focused into certain ways of being, as opposed to being truly from your soul, coming forward and being a spiritual being. I've met people that tell me that there is no such thing as spirit, they say I'm crazy for thinking that I hear spirit or see spirit or whatnot. And it's, to me, you really need to have your own experience of your spirit, be able to discern your spirit versus your physicality, versus your emotionality, versus your sexuality, versus all the different aspects of our being, to be able to discern the different parts of it, to know that this is my physicality. You know, what I operate up with here might be my mental body. If I let go of that, then I can allow more of my spirit mind, if you want to call it that, to come through. The higher degrees of my knowing from other lives, from God's source, if we want to call it that, from our soul, when we allow that. When people are so locked into their mind, they literally create a closed down mind, so they can't be open to all that energy coming down through them. And even, that phrase, I think therefore I am, which I kind of find humorous, but I also think that that phrase is probably not an English phrase. It's from another language, and I think the actual meaning might have gotten misconstrued as it's been put into English, and people run with that. I don't think the real meaning of that phrase
I think it was Greek or maybe Latin originally.
And maybe it did mean sort of that. I'm not sure, but the way I look at it is we might have a mind, we might have a brain, but we're not our brain and we're not our mind. We're the being that might have those things. And I think when we let go of the physical construct so much, we don't hold on to it so tightly, then we're able to really let our spirit and our soul come forward. We let true inspiration and enlightenment come into our bodies, into our mind, and then we can come forward with that and be. And I think that's really our path of being. Our path in life is our path of being, and how we're coming forward, how we're working out the embodiment that we're creating here in this space. I don't personally think, and I could be wrong, but I personally don't think that we're supposed to go out and create some other path, so to speak. I think we are our path, and it's more allowing our spirit to come forward, more allowing our authentic voice to be present and work through whatever it is we might be working through from previous lives or our interactions with those around us. And we free our own being when we do that. And we show others they can free their own being as well. It's not about, hey, I'm coming forward and I'm going to take over and all of that. And that's a lesson that many of us have been learning. And we've been learning through many centuries. People coming forward and deciding they know the right way, so they're going to create a war and purge everyone else and make everybody else follow their way. Well, everybody has their own unique way how they're coming through and what they're dealing with. I mean, yes, we do need boundaries, and sometimes we need to create boundaries for others that lack them, that might be harming us or others. But I think we need to be careful before we start deciding that we have the right to control everyone. So where do we want to go with that? Mark's sort of like
and my eyes are itchy because of the allergies, so I was outside today trying to take advantage of the good weather. Plant.
Get that out a little bit. So something I'm working on this year is, like, my theme is trust. I haven't really looked much up about it, but how would you say, because I feel like it probably relates with all this, to like work with trust?
So first, you need to discern, are you looking to work with trust with others, with yourself, with your being, with God, or where is that trust?
Yeah, I think like kind of all of it. like within myself, trusting myself that, you know, what I'm like, follow my gut feeling kind of trust. Also, though, like being able to have the discernment with other people and trust in things, or I don't know, I haven't, like I said, I haven't like dived into it, like researching anything. This is just sort of where I'm at the moment, but just like, you know, the scenario of like, you're constantly being kind of, I mean, disappointed, I guess you could say, like someone who says they're going to do something and then they never do it. So then you kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, I just know they're not going to do it. So you don't get disappointed, where you're just like, I kind of accept it. But like, I feel like there's an element of trust there that like gets shut off, at least for myself. And like, how do I, maybe it's more of a forgiveness thing, but I don't know. So I'm working around that.
I was just gonna,
kind of
because then it leads to you thinking that everybody's going to be like that, and then you don't
kind of
because
exactly.
oh well, in the past,
and then not opening up to receiving those things anymore because I kind of shut them down before it starts, because I don't trust that it's gonna, you know.
And there is an element of and I want to see if I can say this in a clear way of what I mean, of knowing that sometimes we put more trust in others that don't have the ability to give us that.
Yes.
And sometimes I think with some people we have to let go and know that they might not be able to deliver for whatever reason. And so then possibly what we need to do is realize that it's not about trust. It's about being able to see in the moment of what people are capable of doing, and letting it be, and not setting ourselves up for trust issues with people that are not able to come forward with what they say they will do. And there's a lot of people that are not able to do what they say they will do. And so let's look at the word responsibility. And it's a word that I break apart often for people. So what is responsibility? Responsibility is an ability of response. So maybe take a little bit of time and look at responsibilities versus trust. And so there are a lot of people that take on responsibilities that they have no ability of response for. And then they create all this drama and karma and such over that, when they never had the ability of response or the responsibilities, yet they just keep taking on more. So we really need to, if we're going to be conscious, we really need to learn what are our abilities of response in any given moment, to be able to have the responsibilities that we're taking on, and learn to be able to say, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. Or even looking at other people and seeing, do they have the abilities of response, responsibilities to be trustworthy, to be worthy of my trust. But in the word trust, in the phrase worthy of my trust, is there judgment in there? And is that judgment against them, or is it against us? Or is it even preconceived notions of what we expect from others? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think as well, if I can be bold in this, and you'll have to tell me if, this is going to go online later, you'll have to tell me if you want any of this edited. But I think possibly there's a little bit of your own concerns with you being able to have abilities of response, of your own responsibilities in life. And so I think some of the trust issues that you might have come up with your own abilities of response. And sometimes as well, I think for you, so this is a little bit of a psychic reading, for you, I think it deals with you needing to be able to allow others to help you at times, and as well know that sometimes people are not able to help us. And I think we kind of have to let that go. Otherwise, we're creating issues for ourselves. And in that, we can learn to have greater abilities of response for our own self, our own being. But I do think that we need to be careful that we don't try to take on more responsibilities than we have, or that we should even have. Because I don't think we should be an island onto our own, so to speak. I think we do need to be able to be open and allow others to help us at times. And sometimes nobody's going to be able to help us. And sometimes things are going to fall apart and things won't be pretty. And I'm not so sure anybody told us when we came into this realm that life was going to always be wonderful, or that life would be wonderful at all, you know? Yet there are a lot of people that live out their life assuming that life is supposed to be wonderful. And then they set themselves up with trust issues and all these other issues. And that's a hard thing to say, because life is wonderful, but there's a lot of complicated, complex things within all the different dimensions of that. So if we're holding fast to our spirit and our soul as we journey through this bumpy ride, then we can see the wonders of life, and we don't get stuck in the quagmires of all the dramas and all the horrifying things that are in life as well. And the more that we let go, and don't pull those other things to us, then we can live more in the light and the wonderful things in life. But, you know, there probably will be a lot of horrible things in our life. For me, as a little kid, I saw much of what was going to happen in my life that I would have to live through. And I didn't create all of that because I saw it. But I did create some fear and some other issues because I saw all of that, and I didn't see any way but through it, so to speak. So that's kind of strange. You know, some people have said to me, well, you've had so much trauma in your life of all these horrifying things. And part of that is because as a little child, I saw through society. I saw the horror that is in parts of society. And as a little child, that's pretty horrifying, you know? It's amazing to me at times when people talk about their children, and they talk about how they protect them from certain things. And I think from my 3-year-old mind or my 5-year-old mind of seeing what I experienced. And these other little kids are supposedly being protected from all these certain things, when sometimes their parents don't even realize what their little kids are actually dealing with either. And sometimes I think when people protect their children too much, so to speak, their children don't have the abilities or response to protect themselves, or even to learn how to discern what's going on. And so hopefully I'm not pulling this apart too much, but that kind of goes in with, you know, if a little kid is awake enough to be aware of their past lives, and the people around them shut them down because it's too crazy sounding, or they don't know how to deal with it. Or then the other spectrum, where the little kid is dealing with past life stuff and their parents try to open them up and pull it all out. And that's not good either. Just like if you have a little chicken egg, say, or a little bird egg, you have to let it hatch on its own. You can't peel the shell apart for the bird, because that's going to kill it. And sometimes I see this when I'm on social media in different groups of people that are more into past lives and things of that nature. And sometimes they talk about their little kids, and I hear what they're doing with their little kids, is trying to open them up in different ways. And it's like, that's kind of dangerous. You can't push the kid. You don't even know what the kid is going through. You don't even remember what you went through in other lives, and you're trying to like pull this out on a little kid. Hold space for them. Let them come to you and talk, and show them love, and be interested. Don't shut them down, but don't rip them open either. I think we need to be very careful because, you know, little kids are trying to be little kids, but they are also, you know, some of them have been adults not that long ago. So it's an interesting mix, and I don't think we have the right to mold the minds of little kids. And you know, when I meet teachers that say how their greatest thing about their job is that they mold the minds of their children on their classes, I cringe inside because it's like, why do you think you have the right to mold the mind of anyone? You know, maybe hold the space for that little mind or that little soul to come forward. And you might realize that little mind and that little soul is much bigger than you could even dare dream. So, you know, it's interesting the way we interrelate with people and how our own complicities and our own limitations can affect other people if they're not able to have the discernment to see through and move away, or realize, okay, I'm just gonna have to live through a period of horrifying stuff, and just try to hold to light through it all, and have trust, have faith that you know, things are actually better than they appear in this realm that has a lot of darkness in it.
So you think like trust and faith are the same thing?
No, but there's unique sameness, but
Aspects.
aspects is the word I was looking for. Thank you. I had to dig it out of him. There's unique aspects to it, but I think faith is something different. And I don't necessarily believe in blind faith either. I do believe that faith, in my opinion, I believe that faith is something that you learn through time, even through lives you've lived. That it's something that you learn through experience, and I think it really comes from being spiritually conscious. And the more you have actual spiritual experiences, you build faith, and you build belief, and from that you can build trust. But I think faith comes before trust. I'm saying that in a clear way. So I almost wonder if the concept of letting go of concept of trust for a little while might be helpful. And like I said, to think about responsibility and abilities of response. And so that builds discernment when you're around somebody and you want to trust them, you know, look and see, do they have the abilities of response or the trust that I would like them to have? And so if they don't have the ability of response to be able to watch over my house for the week I'm away, I'm not going to give them the keys, because God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll run with that. And myself, I feel like I personally have been better. I definitely haven't looked at it like under a microscope, but I'm getting to a point now where I'm like able to realize and just let things go, whereas before I would just avoid something, or, you know, to just just to not experience it. But because you knew it's going to happen, kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are certain like people that are in my life that I want in my life to some degree. So it's like, I guess, like you said, like looking at it and seeing like to what degree is that going to work through their ability of response. And as you said, my
expectations, yeah. And so there's the level of how much can another actually show up in your life? How much can another actually show up in their own life to be able to show up in your life, to be able to have that experience? And so that brings me to a thought, being very empathic for so much of my life and being able to see things. There are times I meet total strangers and I realize how much of a connection we could have, how much we could share if we got to know each other. But I realized that this is a person that's just going to walk by me. I can't stop them. You know, I'd seem like pretty crazy if I just stopped, certain people. And I mean, yes, there are times that you can stop someone and start a conversation type thing, but I've had times where I've realized I can't stop this person for whatever reason. And there's been many different types of reasons. But I see and realize that I could have a great relationship, a great interaction with this person. But it's just not meant for whatever reason. Um, you know, that's kind of a weird thing to experience, because being so empathic, I meet people that I realize that I can't have interactions with. And sometimes I meet people that want to have interactions with me, want to have friendships and whatnot, and I realize they're not capable of being a friend. I can be a friend to them, but they don't have the ability to be a friend to me. And so, how much do I want to put out and then create the chaos that I can see that's going to come from my interactions with them? And so, when do I need to step aside so I'm not bringing that to me? And that's something that I had to learn through lessons, where I think if I saw and learned some of that when I was much younger, I might not have had to live through some of the things I did live through, in that way. And that is sometimes too when we're too trusting of people, we create those issues. Whether it's that, for some people, I know when I was little, I was very naive, and didn't realize at times the darkness in some people, because I didn't want to see the darkness in them, because I was seeing too much as was.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. We're actually close to the end of Circle. Mark, do you have anything that you wanted to share? Or did I push you too far in the corner of it? Yes, sir.
No, I think we're good. Sorry, I've been sort of distracted by this one. I'm listening to you, but I'm still.
The little puppy is down there.
It's though, because she wants me to keep petting her and but then she gets tired of sitting up, so she lays on the ground. But then I can't reach her, so. So then she stays there for a couple minutes, then she pops her head back up and is looking at me like, pet me.
And I think I might have been more traumatized that she was going to have to go through this surgery than she was traumatized. But I don't know. Maybe she's just not using her words yet to let us know how traumatized.
She hasn't really barked since then, so that's
yeah.
Supposedly golden doodles don't bark very much, but she never got that memo. She barks all the time.
She does sometimes howls, which is very funny. So I don't know if other golden doodles howl, but she does sometimes howl, which is kind of funny.
Oh my gosh, I just pictured her in a wig. I think that might need to happen.
Well, I would try it, but I'm not sure. I
All of
mean, maybe
you.
she'd wear it now because she's not all that active right now.
Yeah.
She's still
Being
Poor
medicated.
her.
A little,
zoned out from the anesthesia.
but
No.
yeah, she would look cute in a wig. So thank you everyone for being part of this. And Shannon, don't go away just yet. I'm gonna close off the circle, and then we can just chat for a couple minutes. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.